Hey, welcome to the Political Matrix News. We're doing this on Election Eve. It is Monday, the 4th of November, 2024. Finally, in a very few hours, our long national nightmare will be over and there will be no more political ads. We'll see how the rest of it plays out because we have been inundated, flooded. I've gotten 3 calls today from Ron DeSantis. And the fact is, I have Ron DeSantis' phone number, okay? But it wasn't him. I don't know. It's kind of, they want to talk about the horrible constitutional amendments coming up in Florida, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I can't even remember which ones I voted no for, but I think it was most of them. I'm Rob Milford in Orlando. Joining us, Greg Fink in Gainesville, and he's been away way too long, since I think May sometime or the end of April. Mike Bates back in the lower 48 after spending the summer as a hunting guide taking grizzly bear and moose in the mountains of Alaska. So looking good there, Hoss. Good to see you.
Well, that's not exactly what I do in Alaska, but hey, it's close enough.
And you know, you're a pioneer. You're in the mountains on a daily basis, something like that. It just makes a more interesting story. Yeah,
that's right.
It's like my buddy Bob lost the lower leg to diabetes. I said, tell him you were scuba diving was a barracuda attack. It's a lot more interesting story, you know. Anyway, Will Ferrell weighs in because he said that we are accountable. If we vote for Trump, we are accountable. Now, I got to tell you something. Will Ferrell's kind of funny, and he's had his moments, but I don't really give a crap what he thinks about politics. But he thinks this about us who may vote for Donald Trump.
This election is going to be one of the closest in history. Your vote will make the difference. That means you, Gary. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm just one person. No. Shut the up, Gary. Last time, only a few thousand votes kept Trump out of office. And this time, we will hold you personally responsible, Gary. Don't forget to vote, Gary.
Mike, you've only been back in the lower 48 of a week or 10 days or so. Was your mailbox crammed with political ads? People trying to get elected in the 1st District of Florida?
Oh, very much so. I mean, you had said at the open that the national nightmare will be over tomorrow. Well, it will be with the political ads. I don't believe it will be with the results. I don't expect we're going to know until probably the end of the week, maybe even over the weekend. I think it's going to be that close. But yeah, in terms of CD1, where I am in the western tip of the Panhandle, lots of political ads coming in. It's all over the television, all over the radio, of course. Mailers in the mailbox. They're showing up on all kinds of internet sites I go to, the social media feeds. Yeah, it's endless, and I am looking forward to it ending. I love politics, but geez Louise, let's bring this to a close.
I was trying to watch a football game, and I kept on saying, vote yes, vote yes, vote yes, on the abortion thing. And it's like, I mean, it was like every single 20 seconds. And it was ridiculous. I mean, we actually, over here in Gainesville, we had political ads for people who are not even running in our area. I have no idea who was setting up their digital programming. They're like running in South Florida. They're playing in Gainesville. They're running in Pensacola. They're playing in Gainesville. And so, I mean, it was very, very weird of all the digital political ads that were just really going out of control.
Wow.
Boy, that's pretty horrible geo-targeting.
It's very
Although you can geo-target pretty cleanly. If it's running that far out of where people live, or perhaps are registered to vote. I mean, if it's a student at UF, but they live in, say, Fort Walton Beach, well, they might get a CD1 ad, even though they're actually in Alachua. So it may or may not be as poorly executed as you think.
Yeah.
Okay, locally, let's talk about, I don't think you guys back me up on this. There's really not going to be a contest with Rick Scott running for Senate, right?
I think in Florida now.
Latest poll shows a 4-point margin. Oh, I'm sorry. You said Rick Scott for Senate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Latest poll that I saw this morning showed a 4-point margin of victory for Rick Scott with a 3.5-point margin of error. So who knows?
Yeah, but I do believe it's a landslide.
I believe he'll certainly prevail.
Okay.
By single digits.
Congress, I'm not going to worry about the 1st District because no matter how much money everybody has, they are running against the Gates machine. What about any other contested congressional races that may dethrone somebody who is in office or has been in office for a while?
I don't see any of the other
That's
races
yours,
being
Greg.
very. I don't see any of the other races being heavily contested, really. I mean, everything is pretty well drawn up on the maps, and everything's, gonna go the way the maps are going. And so I don't see any surprises or any upsets or any defeats. I mean, I do wish Matt Gaetz would be defeated. I wish people at CD1 would actually stand up and get rid of him, but, that's going to be we'll figure all that out tomorrow. But, he'll probably run for governor next. And so if he does win, and that's going to be horrifying for the whole state to even watch that charade happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
well, maybe then
see.
news media will pay attention to all of the misdeeds, real and imagined, and you're gonna have to go into hiding, aren't you?
No.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm not hiding for nobody.
Oh, great. Well, it's been good knowing you there, buddy. No problem. No problem at all.
I think the biggest issue, the one amendment that nobody's talking about, I think that people should be talking about, though, is the school board being partisan.
That's 5 or 6. That's one
number
of them,
2.
Right? No, that's 2. Okay.
That's 2, yeah. Is a partisanship, or it might be 1 or 2, but it's the partisanship of the school board. And I think, people need to, right now it's nonpartisan for anybody who doesn't know that. And they want to make it like, political parties with it. And I think that with all the drama with the school book issues and everything else and how politicized it already is, I don't really think that adding a political label to it is going to make it any better.
Well, I think it's a natural follow-on to the, we keep getting referred to as the book banning state. And my girlfriend blames Ron DeSantis for that. So let's see, partisan election of that's number 1.
It is Amendment 1. It is Amendment 1. And okay. I voted in favor of it. And I tell you why. A handful of years ago, I don't remember what year it was. I think it was 98. Don't hold me to that. There was a constitutional amendment that put it the other way, that would remove the partisan label. But I tell you why I voted in favor of it. Education should not be a partisan issue, but it has become one. The education system is becoming a place of leftist indoctrination, not just at the college level where it's happened for decades, but even high school, middle school, elementary school. This is largely over LGBTQ AIP plus agenda, okay? And so where the school board candidates stand on those issues matters, because they're huge issues. And an easy way to determine, it's not universal, but generalizations are generally true, that Republicans are going to oppose the LGBTQ AIP plus agenda, and Democrats will support it. And so if somebody's running for school board and I see a D or an R, it may not always mean that they support or oppose that position, but it's a good indication. And for that reason, I voted in favor of Amendment 1.
I agree, and that's exactly why I did that. I think the book banning has really taken off, but the book banning is a reaction to the major swing left in what our kids are being taught. And the fact is that the left has taken out so much poor educational material. I mean, these kids, my God, they can't find their way. They can't find their way across town without using their phone and a GPS, and they couldn't read a map. But it's more than just that. And one of the things, by the way, and here's the sample ballot, which I happen to have in front of me here in Orange County, and it's very simple. It looks to me, and to jump in on this, it looks to me that all of these motions, all of these amendments are written in a negative tense, in that if you vote yes, you're doing damage. If you vote no, nothing will change. Is that pretty accurate?
I would kind of go just the opposite of what you said, because I think most of these are written in such a manner that voting yes sounds good. And the reason for that is because the ballot summary is written by the advocates who want the amendment to pass. whether it's put on the ballot by the legislature or if it's put on the ballot by the Constitutional Revision Commission, which isn't this year any of those, or if it's done by public petition. Either way, the people who want the amendment to pass write the amendment and write the ballot summary. Now it has to be approved by the Supreme Court, but still it's written by its advocates. So I think that they are written in a manner that if you really don't know the issue very well, you would logically conclude, well, yes seems good and no seems bad. So I would say just the opposite of your take.
Well, I had no problem voting no on Amendment 3 and no on Amendment 4. I had no problem with that at all. And because the negative ads for 3, oh, wait a minute, I can't put a couple of plants in my backyard. What the hell? You know, I thought that's what it is, the marijuana equivalent of constitutional carry. And then Amendment 4 takes away the parental rights, or at least the parents' involvement, if your little girl has to have an abortion. Mom and dad don't need to be told. Wait a minute, that's the state taking control of your child. And I'm not there. I can't go along with
and
that.
let me address something else, because that has been a big push by the people who are against Amendment 4. They've been discussing it as a parental rights thing, exactly as you described. To me, though, while that is an important angle of it, there's a bigger issue. This is not a parental rights amendment. It is partially. But the bigger issue is that the entirety of Amendment 4 is determined by the definitions of 3 terms: viability, health, and health care. And those terms are currently defined by Florida statute. Viability, and I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but this is actually in statute. This is not just me making up words. Statute defines these, okay? And I can cite the statute and did in my blog post and link to them, but I don't have them memorized, so I can't think
where
what
do
they
we
are.
find that blog post, by the way? Go ahead and plug it.
It would be www.themikebatesshow.com, and it was my, I believe, October 5th, 2024 blog post. But either way, the 3 terms: viability, health, and health care. Healthcare provider. Viability, determined by statute right now, that says it's the ability of the living being to survive outside the mother's womb with standard medical procedures or intervention. Health, specifically, Florida statute right now excludes mental health. It specifically says psychological conditions are not considered health for purposes of life or health of the mother for legalizing an abortion. Healthcare provider is defined as basically a doctor, a nurse, and a handful of other healthcare providers, okay? But those are all defined by statute. You put those 3 terms into the Constitution: viability, health, and healthcare provider. Well, statutes, as we all know, they can be changed by a simple majority of the legislature and the signature of the governor, which means they could change the definition of what viability means to whatever they want. And they could, on an extreme level, say, oh, well, if it's in the womb, it's not viable. Okay, so now we suddenly legalized abortion on literally the due date. Or let's talk about health. Well, right now, mental health does not count. But by simple statute, majority of the legislature, suddenly mental health can count. Well, what does that mean? Well, maybe having a baby is going to make me unhappy. That's my mental health. Now, just because I don't want a baby because it'll make me unhappy, I can suddenly get an abortion on the due date. Last thing, healthcare provider, currently defined by statute. That too can be changed at any point by the legislature. So if it becomes law that a healthcare provider says it will have an effect on your health, you can kill a child up to whatever viability ends up being, you simply change what a healthcare provider is. The legislature, if they wanted to, could make astrologers and palm readers healthcare providers. We could literally be enshrining in the Constitution, should Amendment 4 pass, the ability for a palm reader to tell a woman that she can get an abortion because a baby would make her unhappy, and it could be done on the due date, and the state would be powerless to stop it.
There you go.
That is why I oppose Amendment 4.
I'm digging it.
I agree.
All right. So, and then there's one about hunting and fishing. And again, that is written so in order to not screw things up. you got to vote no. And I voted no on that as well. And it makes it seem, it shows one thing, but then it's the what is unspoken, what is unsaid. And if you're not into hunting and fishing, don't worry about that. It was not a gun thing, but it limited the amount of hunting and fishing, which the state already does. Okay, then nobody complains about that. We do have an awful lot of fish in Florida, and I'm on Reddit in the Orlando group chat, and people are always questioning, well, I'm coming down to visit. Can I swim in a lake or do I have to go to the ocean? And the correct answer is, if it's freshwater in Florida, there's an alligator there. And if it's saltwater, there's a shark. Enjoy the pool at your hotel.
Right.
You get the idea. Hey, subject change here. Subject change.
Hey, before you change the subject, Rob, may I quickly address Amendment 2?
Sure.
Because I voted in favor of Amendment 2 for probably the same reason you did, and that is that I have no problem with hunting and fishing, and I think it should be a right of people to do it. And it was a preemptive amendment because there are activists across the country who are trying to outlaw hunting and fishing by statute. Hasn't happened in Florida yet, but there are people trying to get it done. So by putting it in the Constitution that it is a right, it would eliminate the legislature's ability to ban hunting and fishing in the state of Florida. So far, so good. And I voted in favor of it for that reason. But I am intellectually honest enough to tell you the danger of a yes vote, which I cast, and that is this. If hunting and fishing is a constitutional right, arguably imposing hunting season and limits, bag limits or catch limits or whatever, might be unconstitutional. So I voted in favor, but I wish it had been worded a little bit more specifically than it was. I think it was too broad.
I concur on that. Let me switch gears and everything else. Greg, you've done polling for how many umpteen years?
Around 25 years, yeah.
Around 25 years. You know, Rasmussen is a big polling company.
He's very good.
Their head forecaster there, Mark Mitchell. Do you know Mark?
I know Scott Rasmussen.
Okay, well, I mean, Mark would probably call you and say, Greg, please help me, please help me. We got this. Mark Mitchell is suggesting that Donald Trump is going to secure a strong lead nationally, will dominate in the key battleground states, and positioning him for a sweeping victory. He foresees a potential flip of Virginia, New Hampshire, and Minnesota or New Mexico might follow as well. He goes, what you're hearing out there is that the polls are close, and I think that's wrong. I think the polls on average show a strong Trump win, and my polls taken independently show that as well. We're talking about a political realignment. This could be pretty much echo or maybe even exceed Ronald Reagan in 1980, which was the greatest presidential election ass-kicking in U.S. history. So that would be really interesting.
It also
except for George Washington, who was unanimously elected twice.
Well, okay.
I mean, I think it also echoes what Nate Silver was saying about all the other pollsters. I mean, basically, Scott Rasmussen and Trafalgar and basically a handful of a few other pollsters out there separate themselves from the other 300 or 400 pollsters as being very accurate. And the way the listener group, we always did our polling, and also the same methodology as Trafalgar and Rasmussen and those types of very accurate polling groups. Now, Nate Silver was talking earlier, a few weeks ago, about how most of the pollsters are basically just off track and lost their minds and are totally out of whack. And those guys are more or less just trying to keep the race going. They're trying to more or less make it a very narrow race because that's what sells articles and sells drama and everything else. But I mean, I think the reality here is that I mean, we see Trump taking some very large leads and some very good states here for him to take leads in. I mean, Wisconsin, I think he's going to do a lot better in Wisconsin than people think. And same thing in Minnesota. I think he's going to end up taking most of that Rust Belt area there. I think he's going to do very good in Pennsylvania. I mean, we have a lot of MPAs here in Florida who are definitely going toward Trump, everything. And we have a lot of people who are, I think it's going to be a very possible landslide. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I know last week we said 300 electoral votes in a popular vote, and I'm thinking That might be the minimum, I think.
Okay, Mike, last week before you were, I think you were on the, what was that, a 2-week extravaganza road trip? That was pretty impressive.
Roughly driving back from Alaska, yeah.
I mean, dude.
12 states.
I put on your Facebook timeline, jealous. You got to see America.
It was a nice drive.
Yeah, hellacious. I mean,
and we stayed off the interstate, most of it. We didn't get on the interstate other than I-5 in the Pacific Northwest. We didn't get on the interstate until Dallas.
So what did you see around the country politically?
Keep in mind, we were driving through small towns and the middle of nowhere for a lot of it. We were on Highway 50, which is dubbed the loneliest road in America. We went, I forget how many hundreds of miles, but a long way. We saw very few cars along the way, very few signs of civilization.
Stretches
small town
across
America.
Nevada, parallel with Interstate 80. Yes. Very, very long, empty road.
That's right. And we went from Reno, Nevada, obviously, to Green River, Utah, along Highway 50. And we spent a lot of it on Highway 380 as well, which was from basically Roswell, New Mexico, all the way to Justin, Texas. And that was a small road as well, 380.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had known. I got a good buddy in Justin, Texas, and he would have been happy to show you a good time. They did close Ranchman's, which is just up the road, about 5 or 6 miles. That's a place that had cows in front, and when you came in, you picked what cow you wanted. They would walk it around the back and serve it up in a few minutes. But when you came back out, that same cow was still there. It was a good stunt. That's when stunts like that would work. So, Mike, last week everybody gave predictions. This will be the last element of this extravaganza. Scott gave a prediction, Greg gave a prediction, and I'd like you to give a prediction on how many electoral votes and if you have any particular states you think that Trump will win.
You know, this race is a coin toss. And so I'm not trying to bow out because I don't want to be wrong. I don't think it's worth making a prediction. I think the whole thing comes down to 8 states. I think I can confidently predict the outcome of all but 8 states. And those 8 states are obviously the battlegrounds: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Nebraska. And the reason I say Nebraska, as you know, has 5 electoral college votes, but CD, they do them proportionate by congressional district. CD1 around Omaha might go blue. And that may be a problem for the president or vice president, depending which side of the ticket gets it or doesn't get it. I think I can predict confidently every other state. I'd be shocked if Virginia goes red. One of you said you might see Virginia going red. I'd be shocked if that were to happen, but I hope it does. I mean, look, I want Donald Trump to win. And the reasons I want Donald Trump to win, and I'm going to really annoy a lot of people when I say this, but hey, it's the truth, so I'm going to say it. I'm no fan of Donald Trump. I'm on the record of that. He was my 17th pick in 2016, and the only reason he was 17th was because there weren't 18 people running for the Republican nomination, okay? So I'm not a Trump fan. However, once he got the nomination, well, that's easy. I sure wasn't going to vote for the Hildebeest, and I certainly wasn't going to vote for Joe Biden, nor would I vote for Kamala Harris. So I voted for Donald Trump in all 3 elections, and I actually did vote last week, so I've early voted already. But the main reason I want to see Donald Trump win, it should be because I want to see America get put back on the right track. But quite honestly, that's reason number 2. Reason number 1 for me is because I don't want to see the left prevail in this unjustified warfare that they have been launching against Donald Trump since he came down that elevator in 2015. I don't want the left to win. The weaponization of academia, the weaponization of the media, the weaponization of the government, the weaponization of the courts against Donald Trump. It's been just atrocious and indefensible. And for that reason, that's my main reason. I want Donald Trump to win because I don't want the left to have won in their unconscionable warfare that they have attacked, that they have launched against Trump and Trump supporters.
Well, they talk about, the left has talked about, and I think what's from The View, that harpy, that shrew that anchors, and she's like, well, Trump is God, Joy Behar. Trump is going to lock us all up in camps. And my immediate response to that is, oh, wait a minute. the same that you locked up Steve Bannon, the same that you Roger Stone. They were locked up, with 12 FBI guys with guns, grenades, battering rams have to go into Stone's house. I couldn't get over it. And, that is absolutely the weaponization. And the FBI has to conduct an armed raid at Trump's house. I mean, I'd like to see that shootout between the FBI and the Secret Service. That would be really interesting and really show you how stupid the Democratic and the lawfare against there is no way, as they talk about how many people that the Clintons know that have died since Bill Clinton took office in 1993. How many people have died? Actuarially, it's statistically impossible. But then you also sit there and go, how many times can you indict one person in a 3 to 6 month period, all within an election year? And statistically, that's also impossible. So somebody must have coordinated this. And when you look at the prosecutors who made how many trips to the White House, and they're on the guest logs, and you just go, great, okay, got it. I don't get it. Hopefully America will have, as they say, a rebirth of freedom. Fingers crossed on that. On behalf of Mike Bates in Pensacola, you want to be Pensacola, Pace, or Milton? You have a choice.
No, I'm in Pensacola. I live in Pensacola now. I used to live in Navarre in Santa Rosa County, but now I'm in Pensacola in Escambia County. I've been here since 2018.
Well, that's about when I left. So Mike Bates in Pensacola.
Why do you think I was able to move back?
Good point. Yeah. Greg Fink in Gainesville. I'm Rob Milford in Orlando, and thank you for joining us for the Political Matrix News. We would appreciate a like, certainly a share, and absolutely a subscription. And of course, with every 10 subscriptions, you will get a Political Matrix News tumbler for only $19.95. So pretty good. This will keep ice in it for at least 3 or 4 weeks. And if you need to whack somebody on the head, it works really, really well in that respect. And the only place you can get them is right here at the Political Matrix News. Go Trump. Vote early. Vote often.
Exactly.